Hi, everybody. I just wanted to pop on before the podcast to talk about David Prowse. As I was editing this episode, the news broke that David Prowse had passed away. He was 85 years old, and I thought we'd just take a few minutes to talk about what he meant to us. I only have one David Prowse story. He was here in Winnipeg in 2007 for our local Comic-Con. He actually came to Winnipeg quite a few times and connected with a lot of fans here. But, I was too shy at the time. This is like one of my first cons I ever went to. I was too shy to go up to him and talk to him. I also didn't have any money to pay for the autograph fee that they were charging. So I didn't. I just looked at him from afar and said, hey, that's David Prowse. Very, very cool. He is Darth Vader. But as it happened, we did run into each other at the con in the washroom. I was at the urinal doing my business, and this very, very tall man using a cane walks up beside me and uses the urinal next to me, and it turns out that was David Prowse. So, hey, I peed next to David Prowse, and that's that's it. That's the only story I have. Kenton, do you have a David Prowse story?
Dave Prowse was one of maybe the first actors that I ever saw sort of wearing the costume with the mask off. And I think it was in the Star Wars, the top Star Wars cards where we first saw him, that there was a human being underneath that armor and that mask. And that was the face that we saw that went with that armor. And I don't think as a kid I knew there was a distinction between the person in the costume and the person who supplied the voice. And I don't remember sort of figuring that out. I think maybe my father told me that was the voice of James Earl Jones, and that's how I pieced it together. But to a whole generation of kids, Dave Prowse is Darth Vader, and that's how he signed his autograph, is Darth Vader. His Twitter account, @isDarthVader. And I had the pleasure of meeting Dave Prowse once when he came to Winnipeg. He did a one-man show. I think it was part of Comic-Con. I might have that wrong, or another similar style gathering. And it was at the Victoria Inn, which is Winnipeg's airport hotel. And he did two things. During the day, he did a Q&A, and in the evening, he did his one-man show. And I went to both of those things. And his one-man show was pretty delightful because he walked the whole audience through, and it was sort of like a hotel ballroom, so it was kind of an intimate gathering. And he walked the crowd through his whole career. Of course, the crowd is dying to hear about Star Wars, and he did, and of course he talked about it. But he also talked about his role in A Clockwork Orange. He ended his one-man show with a song. He sang a little song for the crowd, which was I still remember that just as being an unexpected thing that was just very sweet, and a very sort of emotionally honest way, let's say, to end his one-man show. It was very nice. In the one-man show, he talks about he of course talked about Darth Vader, as I said, but he maintained throughout his career that the role he was most proud of was he was the Green Cross Code Man in the UK. And that was part of a British road safety campaign. And he got an MBE, a Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, in 2000 for playing that role. And in which I believe his role, and I remember he showed the commercial spots in his one-man show, and his role was teaching kids about road safety and watching out when they're crossing the road and that kind of stuff, how street signals work, etc., etc. And today, actually, there's a great British band called the Sleaford Mods, and they tweeted today, "I met David Prowse when he came to our school as the Green Cross Code Man. My mate Graham showed him around the school. We couldn't believe it. Fucking Darth Vader. Afterwards, he shook my hand at the school gates whilst looking thoroughly bored, his driver ushering him away. R.I.P. So that's there's and I think a whole generation, and I think it was part of his contract was that he would visit schools, and so I think a whole generation of British kids saw that campaign and met David Prowse at their school. So that was it was very cool to see his one-man show. He was a very soft-spoken man, a very unassuming man. Earlier in the day, he had the Q&A, and I remember one great moment from the Q&A where a little kid dressed up as Darth Vader with sort of like the cheap Halloween costume Darth Vader, sitting in the front row, and he goes, he puts his hand up, and he says, "What was it like to be the boss of the stormtroopers? How did it feel?" And Dave Prowse just kind of like thought for a second. He went, "Pretty good." So very soft-spoken man, and but willing to answer any question that anybody had. And as I say, for a whole generation of people about my age, people who are now in their 50s, maybe one of the first characters they saw out of the costume, along with Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker, R2D2 or C-3PO and R2D2, was David Prowse's face sticking out of the Darth Vader costume in those Topps Star Wars cards. So when he came to town, I was super pumped to meet him. He also autographed my Star Wars figure with his trademark, Dave Prowse is Darth Vader, the 2004 silver edition of the Star Wars figure he signed. And I've shared that on Twitter at Kenton Larson, KentonLarsen. Same on Twitter under Star Wars Winnipeg. I saved it there if you're interested in having a look. But it's a big loss for Star Wars, and along with Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, and Carrie Fisher, of course, sort of one of the biggies. So there's an outpouring of people reminiscing about him online today. And again, I think that is because David Prowse went to every convention in every city. I don't know if he came to Winnipeg more than once. He may have come here more than once. But I know in any city that had your basic sci-fi convention, Dave Prowse was a regular attendee. So a big loss for Star Wars today, and just a big loss from in terms of the main actors from the original trilogy. So we're gonna miss Dave Prowse. And we wish his family all the best and peace during this time. And let's end by saying Dave Prowse is Darth Vader.
I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And full disclosure, this is our second attempt to record this episode after I had technical issues yesterday. It was going to be our latest ever recorded episode of the Star Wars Nerds. We were going to record it at 6 o'clock in the evening because you were busy fighting City Hall all day. But then we couldn't do it, so then we canceled. Now this is maybe our very first weekend recorded episode, although I think we've done it on the weekend before, have we?
I believe we have.
Yeah, at some point we did.
And actually, when we did a Gears of War.
Yes.
We did a Gears of War, and that had to have been, I think it was either an evening or a weekend.
No, actually, that was over the Christmas break. I remember that being over the Christmas break. We were off because it was during it might have been in the evening. I don't remember what time of day it was, but it was definitely during that 1 week that we have off between Christmas and New Year's. So
I think of it as being in the evening, but I might be wrong on that. I should.
I don't even know if I still have those videos on my YouTube channel somewhere. I should revisit those and see how they are.
Well, we had a 10-minute episode yesterday, which was also our first 10-minute episode, we should say, but it was unintentional. We actually went half an hour. And
I didn't record. I did record half of it, so it's always better to come back a little bit later when we've had time to regather our thoughts. And of course, we went on and we're talking about the Mandalorian, the new episode called The Jedi. It's episode 13. Is that right? No.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, episode 13. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Episode 13 of The Mandalorian, season 2, The Jedi. And I have mixed feelings about this. We talked about this briefly yesterday, and I'll try not to refer to yesterday's conversation too much. But I have to say that after kind of perusing the internet a little bit, it seems that the overall reaction is good. most people really like this episode.
Yeah, yesterday when I talked to you about it, I was actually surprised, first of all, when you said, I sort of have mixed feelings about it. But then I'm glad we can actually record it today because I watched it again. And I watched, there's a YouTuber who I can't remember what it is now, but it pops up because I've watched it in the past. It pops up in my algorithm on YouTube. And so I watched this guy and he was kind of so on the whole thing. And then I listened to someone else's podcast. And once again, I can't remember whose it was. It was like one of the many I listened to. And they were gushing over it. And while most of them were, one person had, what I find is the people who loved the Clone Wars cartoon are a little bit more, they want the Ahsoka from the cartoon is what they want. And so I've heard some of that. I heard a little bit of that, but having watched it again, I can say I really love the episode. I love it. I love it. I almost want to watch it again today.
Well, it's still a good episode. Don't get me wrong. My mixed feelings come from what this episode means for the rest of the series and for the Mandalorian as a whole. So for example, and we were wrong again. I was wrong again. We got Ahsoka in this episode. This was the one. So one episode delayed from when you thought it was going to be, but still, hey, he stopped in. He saw his old friends for repairs, and he's off to whatever the planet is to find Ahsoka Tano and hook her up with Baby Yoda or figure something out there. And I forgot. See, I always thought that his and they've referenced it a few times in the recaps this season, but I always thought his mission was to bring him back to his home planet. But they just told him to bring him back to the Jedi, right? That's what his mission is to find Baby Yoda a home, presumably with the Jedi. So that's what he's trying to do. And I completely forgot about that. All season, I've completely forgot that is his goal.
He is going off the leads that only others have told him, though.
Oh, yeah.
So he might very well ultimately end up returning him to exactly what you suggested, but he's just following leads at this point, from show to show. And it's even like, I know a guy with Mandalorian armor over there somewhere. So there's a lot of that going on.
Some leads have been better than others. Let's just say that. Some of the leads have been kind of sketchy. Some involved telling him information he could have figured out on his own.
The Frog Lady's lead, as it turned out, was pretty vague, as all things considered. They were a very nice couple, the frogs, but they fell short a little bit on the promise on their specific intel.
Correct.
And I think in this particular case, it was accurate intel. It was accurate intel.
Oh yes, I mean this was now. So Bo-Katan told him to go to the city of, I'm blanking on the name, on this planet. And that's where he went. Now, what happens is at the beginning of this episode, when we come across the city that she was talking about, it's like a walled-in town. It's like a fortress. Looks like Lower Fort Garry for anybody in Winnipeg listening. No, not really. But it's a fortress, and so he, and again, I don't understand this whole idea of him. I mean, maybe it's out of cautious. He parks way far away and walks in. Maybe he's just not, he doesn't want to leave his ship unprotected. So then he does that. He walks in and he strikes a deal. But before that, we get a fun little scene with Ahsoka kicking the crap out of some thugs in the forest. That's just kind of this dead, looks like a dead forest. And she's just running through there in the fog with her lightsabers and taking all these guys out. And it's a lot of fun. But honestly, I don't think it was really necessary for the plot of the show. They could have introduced Ahsoka to us later on when Mando discovers her, not at this very beginning part, because they have this thing where she kills all the guys who are in the forest going after her, and then she kind of confronts do you know her name? You've seen it a second time. What's the name of the woman who's the bad guy? I don't know.
She is the magistrate, the cruel magistrate, but I don't recall her name.
Right, her, and then Michael Biehn, who's in this one as well, and he's her I don't know, enforcer. I don't know what he is. Her chief of the guard. He's a tough guy. He's got a tough voice, and he looks really weathered. I didn't recognize him at first, and so they got this thing where she kind of looks up at them in the wall and says, "You have one day to tell me what I want to know," and then she takes off. Again, not necessary, because she knows, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But so that happens at the beginning, and I think it's probably, and you can tell me what you think, but I think that it's just hey, let's get Ahsoka on screen as soon as we possibly can in this episode, right?
Yeah, when I watched it again yesterday, I actually loved the scene a lot more than I did the first time, because the first time I was just so surprised at how quickly they showed us her. I did not expect, like, right off the top we were gonna like get right into it, and I kind of like that about Star Wars. I kind of like that they made us wait a whole movie to see Luke Skywalker, but they did not make us wait an entire episode to see her at the end, which I thought they were going to do. So in some way, I appreciate that they were like, okay, we could have pulled a Luke on you, but we're not pulling a Luke on you. We're here she is, and look at her in action. Look how cool she is. And I have to say, I thought yesterday when I watched it the second time, she was super cool. And I was like, I was more into what was happening. I think the first time I was just so shocked to see her.
Well, technically, they did make us wait a full episode after mentioning her before we got to her. And this is episode 5. And we've all known that she's going to be in this series anyway. We knew that, like, ahead of time that she's going to be it. And we're more than halfway through the season, and she shows up in episode 5 of this season. So there is that. So we did have to wait a little bit, but yeah, you're right. They just kind of like, boom, we get her in there. And again, it's a cool scene. I'm not saying it's a bad scene. It's fun. It's lots of great. Those 2 lightsabers look really cool. Like, she's got white lightsabers. And honestly, Rosario Dawson looks like her. Looks like Ahsoka, right? It's exactly like she would look like in real life. So she's great. That whole sequence is awesome. Then Mando shows up with Baby Yoda, and we skipped over some parts. I don't want to forget some parts regarding Baby Yoda, because this is a very important episode for him. But in the story, he meets the magistrate and her second in command there, Michael Biehn, and after like walking through this town, which is clearly like very, very like it's not evil, but it's like the town is like suffering. The town is being ruled with an iron fist by this woman, and there's men caged before her gate with these electrical, like being shocked, tortured to death or whatever. I assume to death. And all this, so it's just a bad situation for the town, right? And nobody's talking to him. And then he goes in there and then talks to her a little bit, and she tries to hire him to kill Ahsoka Tano, right? And she says it. She says, I want to hire you to kill this person. You're a bounty hunter. I want to hire you, and here you go. Here's a spear, a metal spear made of Beskar, which apparently is the most valuable substance in the Star Wars universe, because people go crazy for it, right? This is what we've been taught this whole time. People go crazy for Beskar, and anyway.
No, and there's not just the financial element. There's the element that you can protect yourself against a Jedi Knight with it.
Right, yeah, we discover that. Yeah. Yeah,
so that's a whole new thing as well. But I also like the let me make sure. Bong, and he hits hits the thing. I like that. I like that test.
It's like a tuning fork, because he's got to listen to it to make sure that it's right. It's the right stuff.
It's like taking a diamond and doing the old scratch. Ooh, yeah. Look at the it's a real diamond, and it's the same thing. I like that. I like the bong. Like I've this is it. This tells you whether, like, there's no question as to whether that this is a forgery if it makes that noise.
Exactly. And he knows, right? Because his whole armor is made out of it, so he knows exactly what it's like. So then they hire him. Well, they don't really hire him. He doesn't actually agree to kill her. He just says, where do I find her, right? So he leads them to believe that he's going to kill her. And then they send him off into the forest looking for Ahsoka. So like, originally the... see, my question is, when Bo-Katan tells him where she is, she doesn't mention anything about this conflict going on. And she says, you'll find her in the city, but he didn't. So I don't know, was Ahsoka in that city beforehand? Is there something going on there? It doesn't appear to be so. I'm just wondering how did Bo-Katan know she was going to be there is my question.
Well, they're clearly in touch with one another. Maybe, did she say she was on the planet or on her way to the planet?
She said, go to the city. This city and this planet. That's what she said. And that's where he went. And that's the city that has the magistrate and all the people suffering. So again, like, like they would just like, if they're in that close of contact, why wouldn't Bo-Katan just text Ahsoka and say, hey, there's a Mandalorian looking for you. Why don't you give him a call or whatever? Like maybe that kind of stuff. That's not what happened.
They have big fish to fry, those Mandalorians. We learned they've got lots. They got lots on their plate.
Well, yeah. So yeah, he's very busy.
Yeah,
She-
yeah. So,
and she is sorry. Bo-Katan is working on getting her throne back. Right, she wants to be back on the throne of Mandalore. So that's her
right.
thing.
So there's a lot of different chess pieces at play here. I think, I mean, the story yesterday you mentioned, we'll talk about it some more, but you mentioned where, what is the focus of this show going to be moving forward? And we'll have that discussion. But this, when I watched it again yesterday, the show continues to make an attempt, I think, to stay focused on our heroes, our two heroes, the Mandalorian and the baby. And the child. Whose name?
Are you not calling him Baby Yoda anymore? Are you not calling him Baby Yoda?
Well, I don't want to yet because we haven't got to that part of the story. So I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Well, anybody who's listening already knows. But so he goes off to find her. They find each other. They have this awesome 2-minute confused fight, and that's the kind of thing that happens. It happens in comic books all the time, and in the Marvel movies it happens as well,
yeah.
where two good guys fight each other for a few minutes because they don't know that they're all good guys. And I mean, and lucky for him that his armor can repel a lightsaber. Otherwise, he'd be dead.
Right.
Pretty much. She comes right at him. And then we learn that, and then she's like, oh, he's like, I'm here to talk to you. Bo-Katan sent me. And she's like, well, I hope it's about him. And she points over at Baby Yoda.
And he actually says her name, though. He goes, Ahsoka Tano.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And so that was cool, too. I like that. I like the...
Well, I think it was the only way to get her to stop. But I mean, why didn't he say it immediately? I don't know. Because we wouldn't have that cool, confusing fight. So then... what else? Oh, so then she has, I guess, a bit of a moment. It's kind of cool. What it reminded me of, so there's a scene where they're sitting by the lantern and she's communing with Baby Yoda. She's somehow communicating. And it brought to mind a scene from Short Circuit, the movie Short Circuit, when the scientist is figuring out that the robot is intelligent. Do you remember that part? And they put the tomato soup on the napkin, and they're like, "Look, it's a butterfly." And whatever. That's what that reminded me. She's communing with Baby Yoda. She's trying to figure out if he's intelligent, and he is. And she learns his name. She learns his origin story. We get a little bit of a backstory of Baby Yoda. It's really, really exciting stuff. I think that's what made everybody the most excited in this episode. That's the biggest revolution.
And poor little, we found out, so he's Grogu. Let's say it. Yeah. Let's say the name.
Grogu.
Yeah, he is Grogu, little baby Grogu. And
he looks up every time you say his name. He's like, what? Yes, hi. He knows his own name.
It's so cute. But it's interesting because baby Grogu has some PTSD because it's all a blur about he was rescued by a Jedi from the temple. And presumably when Anakin Skywalker was killing everybody.
Yes.
And who was the Jedi that rescued little Grogu? Who was it? I'd love to know. We saw... anything could have happened there, right? It could have been... Because we didn't see everything that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda did.
Well, we also didn't see every temple. Like Anakin killed the kids in the main temple on Coruscant. But he, there's temples all over the place. And
he was on they clarified, though, that Grogu was on Coruscant.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yes,
I forgot about that part. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they do say that. So he was there. I think that's what they're getting at. He was there for or he was either taken away just before or he was taken away during that massacre. So if somebody took him before, that implies a number of one of the things that I most want to know, and I think we may get ourselves a flashback of this thing
I'm
happening.
sure. Yeah. That'd be cool.
But who do you think? Mace Windu.
I'm rolling my eyes, listeners. I'm rolling my eyes because Kenton will not give up on the fact that he thinks Mace Windu's still alive.
Yeah, of course he is. We're gonna see him again. Maybe not in the Mandalorian, but
where's he been this whole time? Is my question. And then I don't. It's so hard to think. I would rather it be a Jedi we don't know about. I would rather it be somebody new. Right, a new character that can be a Jedi, because we have a handful of Jedi still in this time period when we're after Return of the Jedi. I guess we have Ahsoka, and by the way, what's she been up to this whole time? I'm sure, and I know we've talked about there's going to be an Ahsoka. There may be an Ahsoka series. I don't think they've confirmed that yet, but that can cover all that, right? Of everything that she's been up to since Rebels. When last we saw her in Rebels, she was off to find Ezra. Was it Ezra or Thrawn? She's off to find Ezra, right? Ezra disappeared.
The two of them were one and the same, essentially.
Yes, her and Sabine were looking for Ezra. But that's still like what, 5-6 years? Like that's 10 years maybe since before the first film. So yeah, that's kind of the question mark, right? Where's she been? But I would rather be a Jedi that we don't know who it is, and they're just introducing this person, and then when he runs into that person. So what she tells him? Well, okay, we're skipping ahead. Sorry, I'm getting all over the place.
Who survives the Jedi Temple purge?
Who survives Order? More importantly, who survives Order 66? Right, that's the because that doesn't happen at the same time. Order 66 is after that.
Who knows about it in advance? And that the answer would be only a bad guy would know about it in advance. He could have been taken away by a bad Jedi. It's possible.
Oh, like Dooku or something like that. Dooku was
well, whoever. I'm not sure who's running around at that point, but I mean, I think, for instance, I don't believe we ever see the fate of Yaddle.
Yaddle. This could be Yaddle's baby.
We know that Yoda is okay at the end of Order 66, and we know that Obi-Wan Kenobi's okay.
Oh, this could be the child of Yoda. It really could be the child of Yoda.
It's possible.
I guess so, eh? Okay.
So, but we don't see that on screen, so we're just guessing at this.
Yeah. So then they have their conversation about it, and he does have PTSD. He won't use the Force on command. She tries to get him to pick up a rock and pass it to her, and then Mando gets him to grab the little knob from the lever that he likes so much that he took off earlier in the episode, and it was like you can see that his Force abilities are developing because it's not just lifting something up, it's like actually twisting it. So he's got to do a little bit more to get that knob off, and he does that. He does take the knob and floats it over to himself using the Force. And so she comments on their bond and that he has such a strong bond with Mando that she can't train him. That's kind of her line. But I just think she doesn't want to train anybody. Like I really think that Ahsoka's like done with the whole Jedi thing. Right?
That's right. She's rejected it. I believe she's even said it. I haven't even watched that many episodes. She has. No,
she does. At the end, end of the Clone Wars series, it's very clear that she is done. She goes off and does whatever, and that even comes up again in Rebels, I believe. That she's just so just upset with the whole Jedi Order for what happened that she's kind of renounced the whole thing. So so that's why she doesn't want to.
She references Anakin again by saying, "I've seen what happens."
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. She did reference that. Yeah. And then she also says that she has only ever known one other creature like Grogu, and that's Yoda. So she mentions Yoda again. So that was nice to see Yoda. I was just sitting there waiting for her to say Yoda. Like I was just, please somebody just say Yoda in this series.
We know she knows him.
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
If you don't say that, there's something wrong. And so I'm glad. Like sometimes Star Wars will take something that you're like, this needs to happen here because we know this, and then it just lets it go. And I was like, no, don't do it. And they did it, and I was like, good, because that is what you would say. If you've only ever seen one, and and that person happened to be, or that, what is Yoda, creature, person? If
he's a being.
That being, if you've only ever seen one being. One human being. Remember Jabba? You're a great human being. Yeah. or whatever. So who knows? But if you've only ever seen one before, and that happened to be the universe's most powerful Jedi, you're gonna name drop.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You're not gonna sit on that.
Yeah, even if Mando has no idea what she's talking about. So they have a brief conversation. He's trying to convince her to take him on, and it immediately becomes about training him in the Force. I thought that was interesting, that it's not about like he doesn't really understand what the Force is or anything, but she knows that it's, if she were still a Jedi, under the old ways, it would be her duty to train him in the Force, to train Grogu in the Force. And so Mando tries to convince her to do it, and he says, "I will help you. I'll help you with whatever it is you're doing." That's what he does, right? And even my son Jack pointed this out to me the other day. He's like, "Have you noticed the formula of him stopping at a planet, helping somebody, and then leaving a planet?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the littlest hobo. It's the same thing. He's the littlest hobo of Star Wars." And
Kung Fu. He's Kung Fu. Come on, give him some credit.
Well, I grew up with the Littlest Hobo, Kenton. I know Kung Fu is more your era, but for me it was a dog that helped everybody.
How about the Fugitive? How about the Incredible Hulk? How about the Incredible Hulk? That was Bruce Banner wandering from town to town, and sometimes they're chased by a dogged reporter.
That's right. Yes.
And the reporter would show up after the town was destroyed and go, "Did you happen to see who did this?" And they'd go like, "This big green creature," and he'd go like, "No, I missed him." Kind of thing. Like he was sort of always on the trail, and so there's a little bit of that going on here.
Well, it's very old school TV is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like it is a TV thing that used to happen all the time.
And I love it.
Yeah, well, it's
I'm
fine.
okay
It's
with
fine.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
fine
by the way,
because there is still. Go ahead.
Your son needs a good dose of 70s TV viewing that he's not getting anywhere else, and this is giving him that.
Well, yeah, he's never watched a TV show that has done this, I don't think. Like every show he watches has an ongoing storyline that you have to watch every single episode to know what's going on. So he offers to help Ahsoka, and then it's cool. Kind of they're like talking about it. They're like a Jedi and a Mandalorian together. They'll never see it coming. And like, yeah, they're gonna take on these people in the magistrate and her guy, Michael Biehn, and they're gonna find out whatever it is that Ahsoka wants to know. We don't know yet, right? We find out later on. And so they behind the scenes, obviously they formulate their plan and they attack the town. And I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. The whole scene, although it was very cool, lots of great fighting and killing people and stuff like that, I didn't believe that our main characters, were in danger for a second throughout any of that. It was all very easy for them, I think. And Mando didn't really have to do much other than to sit there and wait it out while Ahsoka battled the magistrate in the courtyard inside the inner circle, inside the inner wall. The magistrate had her pole, her Beskar pole or spear, I guess, because it had a point. And because that metal is resistant to Jedi lightsabers, it works. It works as a weapon in that fight. And it was a good fight. It was fine. It was like, and she even kind of bested Ahsoka a little bit. She was able to disarm one of her lightsabers and that kind of thing. But in the end, Ahsoka was victorious. And then we just see Michael Biehn sit there and try to fake out Mando and be unsuccessful. I feel like Michael Biehn was wasted in this episode. I don't think we saw the best that we could see with him.
I enjoy him no matter what he does. And of course, I'm sorry to see him, his time on The Mandalorian end so quickly. But I liked, and particularly when I watched it again yesterday, it became pretty, like yesterday when we talked about it, you pointed out, rightfully so, this whole thing is samurai. It's, it's Akira
the Seven
Kurosawa.
Samurai. It's Akira Kurosawa. Absolutely,
it's Kill Bill.
Yeah.
It's
more so than other episodes. Like other episodes has been more themed towards westerns, towards like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that kind of stuff. That's what it felt like. This is Kurosawa, which did in turn inspire westerns, but it is a very different genre of film.
And when you watch it the second time, the part that didn't really occur to me at the time though was we get our duel on Main Street at the same time we get our Kurosawa two Shogun warriors behind the wall. I love that you can hear it. I love Michael Bihn's like, sounds like your side won based on what he hears, and like and kind of the repartee between Mando and Michael Biehn. They both kind of get what's going on. They both sort of are like, yeah, they're both hardened veterans of this kind of stuff. And so I got a kick out of that more than anything. I agree with you though. I never thought that they'd be in trouble. Although there's something that drives me crazy, and I might as well mention it now because Mando is like, he's back at the ship, little Grogu.
Yeah.
I leave him at the ship so often that it's only a matter of time until he's kidnapped by the people, the army I know is after him. So
like how does he know? And it's so far away. Like he can't possibly get to him fast enough. And this happened last episode where he did have to book it back to the ship to get him. But was he still at the school? He was still at the school. Yeah, that time. Yeah. So but he had to book it back there with his rocket pack to get him. And I'm like, so why would you do that again? Why would you leave him alone again?
That's the part. That's the danger I feel when I'm watching these shows. I'm like, okay, where is he now? Like, where'd you put him? Like, where did you, like, you're the worst babysitter ever because you're always making the same mistake over and over and over. So so I agree with you that there was no element of danger among Although I did for a moment go when the robot came over the droid
Yeah,
came
that was
over
cool.
the roof.
But then
and
it's just a quick shot to the
gets
head
him
and
with
he's
one
done.
shot. That was good fun. But
Now, I got to say, although I did like the design of the uniforms of all the soldiers or whatever, they had these kind of cool voices, like like weird voices. I don't know why, if that was because of their masks or if there were aliens underneath those masks. So those guys, although they looked cool, were pretty useless. They're pretty much like stormtroopers. They're just cannon fodder. The robots, which were supposed to be these deadly robots, didn't really turn out to be that at all. I liked when that one robot did kind of the somersault to get up on the roof. He's like, whoop-de-doo. He's like a gymnastic robot. Anyway, so there was that.
One other thing, and before we get to past this, and that is my second favorite sound design of the episode. The first one was bong with the Beskar.
Yes.
The second one was she cuts the bell in half. Bong, bong.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
that was cool.
There was great chimes in this episode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that and then again, she defeats the magistrate, and then Mando shoots the other guy, and so they win. They free the town. Although, and we don't know what happened. Actually, we don't know what happened. Did she kill the magistrate? We don't know. Did they show it? They didn't show it. She asked her. So basically, she's like, "Tell me what I want to know. Tell me where Grand Admiral Thrawn is." That's the information she's looking for, right? Wow. She's looking for Thrawn. Does she kill her afterwards, though? We don't know.
Did we see it?
Well, you've seen it twice. You tell me.
I thought I saw it, but guess what? I was probably just into the story.
I don't think we do. I'll rewatch it, but I don't think we do see her kill the person.
I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, we just...
You've caused me to question the very thing that I saw.
I'm sorry.
At this point, you'd think that I would... But you know what the problem is? Every time I watch it, I'm so blown away by the story that's going on that your mind makes assumptions about what you believe happened. And so I'm thinking about Michael Biehn going, well, it looks like your side won. I think I could swear we see her defeated, like killed.
Well, I know she's defeated, but then Ahsoka asks her where Thrawn is, and I believe we cut away from there, and we don't see what happens. We don't find out where Thrawn is. Like, we don't know if she tells her where Thrawn is, and we don't see if she kills her. I don't think so. But I mean, someone can call me out if I'm wrong. So then we see them, and then we see the town celebrating. The one guy that he talked to before is apparently the leader because he gets a nice jacket. So he's the leader of the town, and he's restored to his former glory. And
here's my beef. I have one beef of this episode.
Okay.
And it's perfectly in keeping with Star Wars, and it's the very lame celebration at the end of defeating somebody. And the worst one. The pod race is the worst, absolute worst celebration in Star Wars.
Okay.
There's many celebrations in Star Wars, but that is the worst one. And I thought the little townsfolk in the distance kind of holding signs up going, hey, hey, hey. Like, I thought that was a little underwhelming.
But the music was kind of cool. It was like this adaptation of the Mandalorian theme song.
Yes.
And I don't know if they were playing that or if it was just in the background. I don't think they were playing it. But anyway, it was cool to hear a different arrangement of that song.
Yeah. So
that was neat. And then he has to go back and get Grogu. He has to go back to the ship, pick up Baby Yoda, bring him back. Like, come on, man. So then, and he's trying to, again, he still thinks that Ahsoka is going to take him on as an apprentice. She still says no, says she can't do it. They're too closely bonded or some bullshit. And then tells him to go to a Jedi temple that has a special place, and to put Grogu on the thingy, on the, I assume it's going to be some sort of pedestal.
I think she says that. I think she says, I think after seeing it the second time, she does say, maybe she doesn't say pedestal. She has a word that she uses that implies...
It's something. It's going to be something. I know. I can already envision it in my mind. It's going to be something. He's going to put Baby Yoda on it. And then that will, I guess, send out his...
he has to choose his path.
Well, yes. But then it'll allow other Jedi to sense him. And if a Jedi senses him that wants to train him, he'll show up. So it's kind of like a matchmaker. It's like a Tinder for Jedi masters and apprentices, maybe. He's got to swipe right. So then...
So who's going to show up?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the question.
You do know. Come on, say it.
It's not going to be Luke. It's not going to be Luke. No, I don't think it will be.
It sure as hell will be. He might not say anything, and we might only see him from a distance, but I think Luke Skywalker is the man.
You think so? I thought when she was describing this, I assumed it was going to be a Force ghost. I thought we were going to get like a Qui-Gon. We could get
Yoda.
a Mace Windu. We could get a Mace Windu Force ghost. That'd be cool. A Yoda Force ghost would
But
be
he's
really cool.
alive, Dan, Mace Windu. Why would you get a Force ghost if the live guy can just show up? His face is all scarred. You know, his face is all, he's got one eyeball. Got an eye patch.
So that brings us to a close. So then we presume he's going to go off, and we've got 3 more episodes, and we'll see where this ends up taking him. Now, here's my fundamental problem. Again, entertaining episode is fine. My fundamental problem with this is that this is Dave Filoni, and it is written and directed by Dave Filoni. This is him bringing his characters from his other shows to life. And it's something that you've been you've expressed that you don't want that to happen in the past. As far as like bringing all these other shows into The Mandalorian. We don't need that to happen. It's been a great show on its own. Until now, we haven't had that happen. So now I'm just worried that we're going to keep seeing like Ezra and Sabine and that guy who's that guy that sneaky like crooked guy with the weird head. He's got kind of armor plating and he's got an accent. He's like, hey, he's not Watto, but he's kind of like Watto in that he's like this scummy guy. Do you remember that guy? Go ahead and talk. I'll look him up.
The Inquisitor guy? Is it the
not
Inquisitor
the Inquisitor? Guy? No, I'll look it up.
It's certainly not Dexter Jetster.
No, it's not. What do you think? Do you think like that we're gonna see all those characters or what?
Well, this is what I think. Okay, so yes, I have expressed hesitation about that in the past. And what I always said was, and I don't mind these characters. I thought Bo-Katan was great. I thought Ahsoka was great. I have no problem with those characters showing up as long as the main focus of the show continues to be the Mandalorian and Grogu. As long as that's who we're dealing with and focused on, I think it's quite all right. Something else occurred to me yesterday when I was watching the show, and it's that the Star Wars sequels. I know they're episodes 7, 8, and 9, the recent sequels. I almost think they should have been 10, 11, and 12. And what we're seeing here is some of the unexplored stuff that happens between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And what's really unfolding is a different Star Wars trilogy, is another Star Wars trilogy. For a lack of a better, it's not a trilogy, but a trilogy, you know, by any other name. And it's exploring the time period that we have not seen explored before. And I think it's setting up a lot. It's setting up Boba Fett. It's setting up Ahsoka. It's setting up Corn on the Cob in Tatooine. It's setting up a lot of different stories that have potential. We've got a Grand Admiral Thrawn in play. Like, there is a lot going on. I think we will quite likely see Sabine. I don't think Ezra. I think Ezra's for some other series. And yesterday I said to you, I think Jason Schwartzman has enough work. So I don't think that we're going to see Jason Schwartzman show. Hi, hey everybody, it's me, Ezra. Like, hey, how's it going?
It is, by the way, the name of that character is Hondo, I was thinking of. Hondo.
Hondo
Ohnaka, who, by the way, is voiced by Jim Cummings, who's the same guy who does Winnie the Pooh. Oh. So, go figure.
It's quite possible we will see, and if we do, that would be last episode style. I think we're going to get a battle in the last episode, or second last, perhaps. I think the Darksaber's in play, so we're going to see something involving that. I think we might see Moff Gideon reporting into Thrawn. That could be cool.
Who's going to play Thrawn?
Yesterday, did I say yesterday?
No.
I said, or I was thinking, even if I didn't say it, but I think he's too old now. Maybe, but maybe not, depending on the makeup. And I thought Robert Patrick.
That'd be cool.
Well, he doesn't I don't think anymore. I think when he was a Terminator, in Terminator fighting shape, I think that would have been maybe perfect. But I don't know. I'm trying to think who looks.
Well, Lars Mikkelsen does the voice.
Yeah.
They could give him makeup. He's 56, so he's about the right age, and
that's good.
They could do that. Yeah, they could make him the guy. He doesn't look too much like Mads.
No.
And of course, Mads Mikkelsen is already a character in Star Wars. He can't be a different character, so it couldn't be him. So there you go. That could be the case. Lars Mikkelsen.
I think we'll see. But don't forget the other thing that I just couldn't stop thinking watching that episode was they're gonna do an Ahsoka spinoff. I mean, it's almost. I think it's practically a certainty at this point when you just watch. And I think, okay, so if they do that, then I think that show becomes that other stuff. That show becomes because that's always been Thrawn and Ezra and the crew, the Rebels crew, and that whole thing. I think that would explore that from a greater universe perspective. I think I think the reason I'm okay with these characters coming into The Mandalorian is because The Mandalorian has earned our trust in terms of the quality of the show it is. And so I trust that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni know what they're doing and continue the focus on the thing that they always intended to focus on, which is the title character and the baby. And I think as long as that remains the focus, then the story continues to hold up. A friend of mine yesterday texted me from Texas, and he said he's like, they should have just given the sequel trilogy to Favreau because he gets it. He gets Star Wars better than J.J. Abrams does, and we should just tank all those sequels. And my friend hates those sequels, and he's like, he actually was at the point where he was like, the only time you can see Star Wars is when you're 9 years old, because as you get older, it just gets worse or whatever. And suddenly what's happened is The Mandalorian has brought him back in.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, but I do think that The Mandalorian is better. It's more on strategy for Star Wars than what the sequels were.
Now, how do you think there's the other thing about The Mandalorian is that it's incredibly popular, almost as popular as the movies, and I would say maybe more popular than the movies, certainly more popular than the sequel trilogy, the latest trilogy. So what do you think about people who are coming into this having not seen any of the other stuff? They don't know who Thrawn is. They don't really know who Ahsoka is. They don't know any of this stuff. Does this still work in that respect?
I think it works better in some ways. I think it works better because the Clone Wars fans that I'm hearing, the gripes I'm hearing from the existing, I shouldn't say gripes because it's pretty light all told, but the complaints, the criticisms, Clone Wars fans wanted the person who plays the voice of Ahsoka to play her in real life. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of expectations around what the Clone Wars series and Rebels series meant to folks who were really into them. And I think their expectations mean that they will only be disappointed by the live action version of what we're seeing. But I thought, we've talked about this, but I'm not as big a fan of the animated stuff as I am of live action. And yesterday, I got more out of that Ahsoka yesterday than I have out of a million cartoons.
I mean, it has more meaning if it's live action, right?
Yeah.
For me, anyway. Like, I appreciate animation. I like animated movies and TV shows, but it seems more real when it's real life. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, for sure.
I thought yesterday watching it, I thought Ahsoka was cool. I thought she was age appropriate. I thought that she has a look in the cartoons that could look really bad brought to life. It could really have gone wrong, right? Like it could have been like an absolute design disaster that we saw where we're like, what's that on her head? A pillow? Like what's I kept thinking, okay, whatever. You can nitpick the look of the live action Ahsoka, but I thought it could go very, very wrong. So I'm not just satisfied. It pulled me into to the Filoni-verse more than
oh no,
more than a lot of.
Let's not call it that. I'd rather it be the Favreau-verse. Let's call it the Favreau-verse because Favreau is responsible for this show, and yeah, he brought Dave Filoni in to help him, of course, because Filoni had done so much other Star Wars stuff. But this show wouldn't be what it is without Jon Favreau.
Right.
No, but I guess I'm not as worried as I was maybe when I watched it last night. I think you're probably right about that. What I also like is that they're not like, I feel like, hey, so this could be the way they're bringing these characters in. They bring Ahsoka in for one episode. We might see her again. We probably won't this season. I'm thinking I think we won't bring her back again until another season.
Maybe in the finale of this season, maybe.
Well, if she's looking for Thrawn and then, I don't know. Again, I don't know how that would happen.
There's a lot in play.
Yeah.
They have some choices.
She's looking for Thrawn. The other Mandalorians are looking for Gideon.
Yeah.
Presumably we're right now assuming that Gideon works for Thrawn, but I mean, Gideon's got a lot of Thrawn-like qualities. He's very similar. In fact, if Giancarlo Esposito wasn't playing Gideon, I'd say get him to play Thrawn because he's really good. He'd be great as Thrawn. But anyway, so yeah, I guess that, and they're not trying to like. Think about when in the Marvel movies, especially like ones like the Age of Ultron, when they tried to cram too much world building into it, right? And they got like bogged down in the details. They're trying to set up all these other movies. Same thing that happened to the DC universe with like Justice League and all that stuff. They're trying to Batman versus Superman. They're trying to cram too much crap into one movie. They didn't do that here. We see Ahsoka, but there's no backstory as to what's happened. We have no idea what's happened to her since the last time, which is fine for those who don't know who she is, and it's fine for those who do know who she is. It works both ways. So yeah, I'm overall. You've made me feel better, Kenton. Thank you. You've assuaged my fears about this series going forward.
Here, let me lay out this. What could have happened at the end of this episode of The Mandalorian. I was thinking about this. I was like, how could they have ruined this at the end? And I thought of it. I thought of a way they could have wrecked this whole episode. Are you ready?
All right.
An X-wing lands right at the very end on the planet where Mandalorian was. So we know that they've been chasing him, and they're just one step behind.
Is this Kim's Convenience?
What's that?
Is this Kim's Convenience? Okay.
Two X-wings land.
Okay.
Kim's Convenience. Oh, it opens up, and Kim's Convenience is like, was he here? And then the other X-wing opens up, and it's Dave Filoni, X-wing pilot, and he goes, damn it, we're always one step behind. And he turns. And he lifts his visor and he turns to the camera and he winks.
And he's like the reporter in the Hulk, right?
Yes.
He's always chasing after the Hulk. He's always chasing after Mando and Baby Yoda to find them. No, I mean, obviously they're not going to do that. I thought, obviously, a way they could have ruined it is to have like Ahsoka say, oh, let me call my friends. And they get like Sabine and the Ghost and everybody from that show shows up. And say, okay, yeah, we'll take Baby Yoda, and then they go off together, and that's the end of it. That would be a horrible ending to all this.
Oh yeah,
so,
I mean, there's so I think they've actually walked through the minefield pretty well this season so far, and I can't wait for the last 3 episodes. I think who do we still have who hasn't directed? Roberto Rodriguez is doing one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which one does he get, and who's shooting who?
Robert Rodriguez, he has such a variety of different kinds of movies that he could basically do anything. I have complete confidence in him. He made the Spy Kids movies, which are completely different from anything else he's ever done. He just made those for his kids. So yeah, that's true. That's coming up. Favreau has directed one of these, right?
Yeah. How about Rick? What's his name again? Rick.
Oh yeah, the guy who did the heist episode.
He's our favorite director from last season.
Oh, he was so good. That was such a good episode. Yeah. He did the 2 best episodes last season.
I love those episodes.
Fujiyama, something like that. Fukuyama.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Something like that.
Yeah, but forgive me for not remembering because you directed my favorite episodes, and I don't think Taika Waititi is returning to do one this season. I don't believe he's doing an episode.
Oh no.
So I think so. That's 2. Who's doing the 3rd? Is Deborah Chow got one?
I don't know. Let me look.
She might have one, but I think she's in pre-production for Obi-Wan.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah. So I don't know if that prohibited her from doing.
Oh, it doesn't say the director, it just says the writer. So the next one is written by Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau has written almost all the episodes. Actually, he has. Mm-hmm. He's written all the episodes except for this past episode. This was Dave Filoni.
Right.
Everything else was Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau's got the next one. And then episode 7 of this season, episode 15 overall, it says Rick Famuyiwa is the writer. So presumably he's also the director. I would think that's probably the case.
That's going to be good.
That's the second to last episode, which is almost always like one of the best episodes of any series. The penultimate episodes are always great. And then the final episode will be Jon Favreau again. It says written by Jon Favreau. So he's really taken a lot on. Like he's done more writing. Oh no, wait. Season 1, he wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He wrote 6 of the episodes. Filoni had 1. Hey, Filoni did chapter 5 last time too. Yeah. Chapter 5 was like the worst one last season. That was the worst episode. It was the gunslinger. It was the one where he there's that poor man's bounty hunter on Tatooine. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
like that guy, and it's got the
guy, yeah.
Jake Cannavale,
Yeah.
Bobby Cannavale's son. That says right here. So that's the episode. That was, and the one with Ming Na Wen, and she dies. So there's like she's just wasted in that one.
Well, I still like a lot of that episode, and I think it's kind of turned into a running Star Wars joke. The Carnivale character, is that his name? Cannavale?
Cannavale, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's become a Star Wars joke that that guy's nobody's favorite character, but it's almost kind of endearing, and it's like Arthur Fonzarelli hanging out at the cantina.
So here's what I think. Now, based on the fact that Favreau's already directed one, and Rick Famuyiwa, I don't know how to say it. Rick Famuyiwa is doing episode 15. So there's 2 episodes we don't know the directors. I'm going to guess that we've already had Bryce Dallas Howard back.
Yeah.
We could have Deborah Chow, but again, she did 2 episodes last season, so she might not be available, as you say. And if Taika Waititi's out, then we might have a repeat. Somebody else, so it might be Favreau doing another one. He might do the beginning and the end.
Maybe.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's still, I mean, they're all doing really. Even Carl Weathers did a great job of directing that episode. Like, who knew that he could direct, right? So it's really good.
Give me a break. That was a great episode.
Yeah, it's all been overall. I've been very much like this season has been better, I think, than season 1 in a lot of ways.
I almost can't. I need to watch it once again from the beginning of season 1 all the way through because because the show has become the tone and the planets and it's all become a little bit different this season, but not. It's not taking us too far away from the original tone, but just enough that we're seeing growth in this show from episode to episode. So we're still at a point, and I always say like a show starts to become worse when you know what it's about. And I still kind of look at The Mandalorian and go, what is it about? Like how
we don't know. We don't know. Like honestly, we don't know enough about Baby Yoda. We don't know enough about Amando. I'm just reading this. It's funny. This is the Wikipedia page on it, and it says the child colloquially known as Baby Yoda by audience members. I'm like, yes, we do call him Baby Yoda. But now I think I'm going to try calling him Grogu. Oh, you know what would be cool is that they got Werner Herzog to come back and direct an episode. That'd be awesome. He could do that.
They should never have killed Werner Herzog's character because he was so good.
Or maybe Nick Nolte could come in and direct an episode.
Oh, I think Nick Nolte literally phoned in that voice, but I love the fact. But it was great. I love that character. That was to me the biggest loss, maybe. Oh, but IG-11 got killed too. So right. I think those were 2 giant losses in season 1 of Mandalorian, and I would have found it hard to say goodbye to either one. I probably would have let the little Nick Nolte Ugnaught live on, probably, if I was directing.
Now, we did, so you just pointed out, we did lose a number of characters in season 1. Do you think anybody's going to die this season from the characters we already know?
Probably.
Any predictions?
I got to think. How do you? I don't know. I got to think about this.
I would say it's possible Cara Dune could die. They could give her like a really honorable death. She could sacrifice herself to save Baby Yoda or something like that. Like that's a possibility. I don't know. The fish guy, Horatio Sands' character. I hope he dies. I don't like him.
Oh no, he's comic relief for the entire series. You know he's going to show up again. Let me guess. Mando will run into him running away with all of Carl Weathers' money or something. There's going to be something like that.
Oh, you know, I was just going to say Ahsoka could die, but no, that's not going to happen if they're going to do a series. There's no way.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any other guesses based on what I've seen, but I'll think about it before next week. Maybe we can come back next week and figure something out.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough
Although I shouldn't make any more predictions because I've been very, very bad at them. None of my predictions are coming true, so whatever.
I personally don't think we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna see any like the Jedi showing up when Grogu chooses his path at the top of the mountain. That might like if I were doing this show, I would give serious consideration to Grogu deciding he's no Jedi. He's hanging out with the Mandalorian forever. That's his choice. That could be.
Well, he doesn't seem to like, other than using the Force to steal cookies, he doesn't seem to like using it. And he uses it in the case of emergencies, like, you know, to heal Carl Weathers or to lift up the horn beast or whatever the hell that thing was called. Like, he uses it when he needs to, but he doesn't like using it. He doesn't appear to want to use it on command anyway. So, yeah, you're right. He could just want to be hanging out with Mando the whole time. And honestly, I would not have a problem with that. I think that would be fun.
This is what I don't want to see because I'll cry like a baby. And that is Mando saying goodbye to him and taking off his helmet. So little baby Grogu can see his face without the helmet on as they say goodbye. Oh my God. Don't do that to us, Mandalorian. I can't take. Or if you're going to do it to us, do it in the last episode of this season. So at the very least we can go, well, he'll see him again next season.
Right.
Don't give us an ET. Don't give us an ET. We have an ET.
I'll be right here.
Na 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 na.
I think that's going to do it. Anything else?
That's delightful. I think we talked out. I think that we probably did a better job the day after than we would have the day.
Yeah,
Although I still
so.
can't remember if we saw. Do you want me to do you just want me to go ask if we saw that character die? Do you want me to do that?
No,
quick?
don't worry about it. Let's leave it out. Let's leave it to the listeners can correct us. I'm not gonna. I don't feel like doing it.
I'm gonna go back tonight and look, and I'm gonna feel like an idiot no matter what I see. That's the problem. So don't call me that because I already am one. I called myself that. I'm owning it.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no moon.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?